Become the pulse of the revolution. In the ranks of the masses rising. Get up, your voices are needed. Become the pulse of the revolution. In the ranks of the masses rising.
Greetings, everyone. This is a call to actions. Today is a very special day, and I believe anyone from any background will be interested in what we have for you today. We have a man, a Paducah, Kentucky resident. His name is Herbert Martin. I called him up a few days ago. He answered the call, and we're going to be talking about one of his many cutting-edge inventions that are here to help the planet and make this planet better for future generations. We're talking about a gyroscopically stabilized, saucer-shaped, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, also known as VTOLA, VTOLA. So, Herbert Martin, let me just welcome you to a call to actions. Thank you for being on here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yes. So, starting out, how did you get into this type of research and development and wanting to become an inventor? And then we'll get into what this invention really is.
Well, back when I was in college, ideas would just come to me, and from out of nowhere, really. I don't know where they would pop up, but I would think this will make things better for whoever is going to be using this item. And but truthfully, with what we want to talk about now, the VTOLA, when the United States first started their space program, I was sitting at my mother-in-law's kitchen table, and I was watching television, and I saw the very first space shot. And for some strange reason, through my mind, when I saw that rocket with all the fire and fury going up into outer space, something passed through my mind, and it said, don't blast through the atmosphere, float through it or ease through it. And I don't know why, but that's kind of stuck with me, and it still is sticking with me today. And that's how I got started with trying to do inventions and designs in this specific area. But I do a lot of things. I've always done lots of things, and maybe that's been my problem. Before we talk about that, I wanted to tell you a couple of. I'm a writer and painter. I used to do architectural illustrations. I have written and illustrated 3 children's stories. This is one of my books. This is a Christian allegory, and it's called In the Garden. And I did all of these illustrations and published it. My second children's story somebody's taken it from me. But anyway, this is my third one. This is called Egbert the Acrophobic Eagle, and this is about an eagle that has all kinds of fears. So this is a book about overcoming your fears, and I wrote it in using a verse style, and I moved the text forward by using cartoons, and then I included just some serious paintings of eagles in there without any text involved in it. And then I've also written poems. I've got a book of poems here. And when I was teaching, my students were having a difficult time in making the transition to the math that I required, so I wrote a book called Shapes Equal Equations, and this is just a math book that explains the derivation of mathematical formula. And of course, my second book, I don't have it here, but it's a book about the climate change and things like that. But
yeah,
back to the real point. My mind said something is wrong with the way we're approaching the space program. And so that's how I happened to get into doing these inventions. And I'm going to say this. My mind has proven me to be correct because, and this, I know this will sound controversial to you, and if I may say this, the thing we're going through a climate crisis right now, and we're having wildfires and we're having floods all over the place, and the temperatures are rising all over the world, and everybody is saying it's because the climate crisis is because of depletion of the ozone layer. Now, this is what I'm going to say. People have said that the ozone layer is being depleted because of cow flatulence or methane produced by animals, and then by spray cans of fluorocarbons and things like that. Well, these are all kind of far-fetched notions because I can tell you now that the ozone is being depleted because of the space program. The ozone is being depleted because rocket ships are passing through it with all that heat, lifting them up, lifting all that heavy metal up. You need all that heat and burning up all those fossil fuels, and they're burning off the ozone. Ozone is O3, oxygen is O2, and it's not possible for the methane that comes from cow flatulence to even reach the ozone layer because the atomic number for ozone is much smaller than the atomic number for methane and those other things. So they're heavier. And also, ozone is produced by lightning flashing through the clouds. When lightning flashes through the clouds, it generates ozone. That's being produced high up in the atmosphere. Methane, and they're down here at the ground. So if they have a larger atomic number, there's no way for them to reach up to the ozone layer anyway. So that I'm stating that the reason that the ozone is disappearing is because of the space program, and with billionaires now deciding to joyride, it's going to get only worse. It can't get better in the future. It'll only get worse. So
I agree completely. I agree completely with that. And as long as I've been around, which is a fraction of what you've seen, I'm 33 years old, and still here we are in 2021, and we're still shooting rockets into the upper atmosphere. And anyone who's environmentally conscious at all can see the amount of pollution, but most people are just fascinated by rocketry for some reason. And I'm not fascinated with it. After doing doing research into patents and finding that there are human beings who have inventions for flying saucers, you being one of them, it doesn't make sense that rockets are still part of our transportation program, and detailingly being space travel. But you have a better idea. If you can link that in with space travel and the ozone, where does your invention become a solution to both transportation pollution and the ozone?
well, my first of all, I have a published patent for a device now that will track the sun, and you can put it out anywhere, and it'll automatically turn and face the sun and start generating electricity. It's not fixed like solar panels. It's set up so that whenever no matter where it is, it finds the sun, and it takes the sun and gathers all of the sun within the sphere of the contraption that I've devised, and pinpoints all of that sun on one spot and generates enough heat. It can generate 12,000 degrees of temperature, and in doing that, it can be hooked up to a generator and produce the necessary electricity. So now I've been trying to get in touch with someone in order to start the manufacture of this. I talked with, well, in fact, I had a meeting with 4 engineers from TVA, and I explained to them how this invention worked, and they were just all awed and amazed, and I never heard back from them. And I've talked, everybody that I've written to, nobody wants to write me back, surprisingly, so that's why I'm kind of stuck where I am. But anyway, I can take this device, which I've called it, well, it's just a parabolic dish that will generate the electricity, and I do use photovoltaic cells as part of it, but not the dish itself. But I can incorporate that dish into, and here's a schematic right here of that invention. Now this is published.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Nice.
I've taken that and devised a way. Now this is a design of my flying saucer. Okay. Now.
Yeah.
I've incorporated these items in the inner workings of the flying saucer. And then may I say this? Sometimes I feel that Ezekiel, the prophet from the Bible, maybe was looking at me, because my design for a flying saucer is a wheel within a wheel. So I have a parabolic, a parabola. Well, no, it's kind of like a big frisbee, really. But
yeah,
this portion rotates. This portion in the center is stationary. It has these doors that can open that cause it to turn.
Can you hold it up just a little higher? Awesome. That's good.
Yeah. So they have lift, but maybe if I take this, I've got a drawing here, I think.
So legitimately a flying saucer. Yes.
Okay, here, this is the first page of one of my patents for the flying saucer. And as you can see, I said I can incorporate the generator in the stationary part of the flying saucer and generate the electricity that would be necessary to operate this. But what's really interesting about my flying saucer is I've got something inside the workings of it that is, I call it a sinusoidal ring. And the sinusoidal ring, when these generators generate the electricity, they cause, in the process of generating, they cause the outer ring to rotate, to spin. Now, as the sinusoidal ring is spinning, it's also connected to some pistons. And so as they're going up and down, because they're stationary and the ring is spinning, it's causing suction. It creates a vacuum on top and it sucks the air in. So you get negative pressure on the top for lift in addition to these flaps. And then you build up pressure inside that can be released to give you vertical lift and also the thrust to move things forward. So that's really how the flying saucer works in a simplistic manner. There's a lot more to it than that. But one thing that I want to say about the whole thing, when this outer ring is spinning and these things are generating electricity, they transfer the electricity to the outer ring so that this will have some electricity and put some lights on there if you want to. But I have to use brushes, and in the process of using the brushes, they're generating ozone. So this saucer will fly. Well, you lost me, I think, you're up there or distant. But anyway, this saucer will fly without using any fossil fuels. It uses only solar power and water. Now, if you say, how could that help the atmosphere? It can get up there, and if it's generating ozone itself, when it's transferring the electricity, then it's replenishing the ozone layer. But at the same time, it's not depleting the ozone layer because it has no fossil fuels to make it fly.
It seems to be, from where I am, this is the first time I've heard any of these details. Of course, I've read most of your patent. It seems to be quite the opposite of what we've had for 150 years. What appear to me to be fossil fuel powered roller skates that we get into and as our transportation vessels, and then rockets that are just seem archaic to me, honestly. They're extremely polluting, especially rockets. But this actually has the potential to restore what the last industrial civilization completely destroyed.
It's true.
I think anyone in their right mind would see that these are extremely beneficial, but the threat to possibly the reason why this technology hasn't been accepted into mainstream society yet is because for nearly 100 years, mainstream media and society have been conditioned that flying saucers are of alien origin. Potentially, going back biblically, they could be originally, fallen angel technology, but who knows, really. So if these flying saucers or VTOLs are released to the public, there would have to be a social conditioning and awareness raised to tell people that these technologies are being created by human beings, and there is a good potential that we could not only use them as a transportation vessel to slip through the atmosphere, right? In your own words, to slip through the atmosphere rather than blast through it, but also restore what the last industrial civilization destroyed.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, that's exactly what I would love to do. Now, you see, now, I know that the oil industry and the coal industries, they're going to hate me because I'm wanting to generate electricity without using any fossil fuels, but I want to create transportation, aerospace transportation, airlines without using fossil fuels also. But this flying machine can replace airplanes because it can lift vertically. It will be the safest form of travel because it wouldn't have to come in and land at 200 miles an hour. It just comes down and, like a frisbee, lands in a easy floating down manner. And but more than that, it would be the perfect answer for the space travel. We wanted to colonize the moon, say, for instance. The shape of this could set down on the moon. Now, it could be made, it doesn't want to be made out of heavy materials. This could be made from a titanium mesh and clear fiberglass, which would make it very, very light, so it wouldn't have all of the lift that was needed for rockets. But it could set down, if the outer hull of this is made from clear fiberglass, it can set down, and you can seal the edges of that, and with whatever water you have on board, you can generate the oxygen you need, and you can start planting in there. If the outer hull is made from clear fiberglass, then you can start planting on the moon and start growing your vegetables up there, and all of us vegetarians could eat.
Clear. That is so interesting. That's one thing I wanted to bring up. I was thinking about today is the material. You're saying a clear fiberglass.
Clear fiberglass that is strengthened by titanium mesh.
That's awesome to think about. And I was thinking titanium would be a good resource as well. It's extremely strong, light, but clear. That is awesome. I wasn't expecting that. That's one step beyond what I was even imagining.
Well, the interior portion doesn't have to be. I'm just saying the outer hull would be clear fiberglass. The interior hull would be the same. Could be lightweight fiberglass too, but it doesn't have to be clear. But I wanted the outer to be clear because you'd be able to see through that, and the sunlight would come through it, and it'd be beneficial for habitating, for trying to establish a habitation somewhere else other than Earth.
Yeah, yes. Talking about those specs, how fast, estimatingly, could this go, and how large could this thing be made?
It could be made extremely huge. I mean, it could be, city blocks in size. That's not a problem. Now, as far as the speed is concerned, I really don't know how fast it could go because obviously, I'm a retired college instructor, and I don't have the funds to build prototypes for things, and I'm not a billionaire, so I haven't. It would have to be tested to see how, but I'm sure it would be based upon how much compression you can build up by pulling in air from the top side and getting compression inside for lift and for thrust. Now, in outer space, this would really move rapidly in outer space because the water that's on board, that's being used to generate the electricity that you need, that water is being heated by the sun, and it's become superheated steam. Now that superheated steam becomes the thrust element when you're in outer space. So instead of leaving a carbon trail in outer space, you leave a trail that's safe for humanity. And what we would be doing if we were taking something to the moon, we'd be taking ourselves and hydrogen and oxygen.
And could it, say if it's in a tough situation, would it say where there's a lack of water, or say the onboard, the inhabitants are running out of water, could it pull in gases from the exterior, from outside in space, hydrogen and oxygen, and create a liquefied version of that in outer space?
Well, it'd be according to what's in outer space. You can't say it'll bring it, but now I will tell you this: if one of these were permanently put up in the circling Earth just to use the power of in the brushes of creating ozone, if you want to replenish ozone, yeah, it could go into the clouds and replenish the water that you need to power. So because it's powered only by solar power and water. So you could go into the clouds and replenish your water up there. But now there are not any clouds up on the moon or on any of the other planets in our solar system. Well, but you go down to Mercury and Venus and some, but that's not something that's made from water.
Well, yeah, I can imagine one of these being really beneficial, but certainly a fleet of these would be, say, if you have 10 of them or 20 of them, 10 or 20 times more beneficial to the atmosphere and to Earth.
Absolutely.
So
And actually, you stop and think about these will be much safer than conventional flight, because even if they would fall out of the sky and crash, which they won't, they'll come down softly no matter what. But if they fell out of the sky and crashed, there's no fossil fuel on board. There's only water, so it won't burst into flames. It would be the safest form of transportation. It won't burst into flames.
that's interesting to think about. So the gyroscope. I think most people are familiar with gyros, say like on the handlebars of a bicycle, how you can spin the handlebars, the gyro system.
Yeah.
This being can you explain the gyroscopically stabilized part of the saucer?
Yeah. When I was a boy, one of my mother's friends gave me a gyroscope as a toy. They were looking out for my brain, I guess. But anyway, gyroscopes are used in all the aircraft for stabilization. And this is housed within a gyroscope. So it's going to be it won't tilt and fall. It'll be stable in its flight. And it's because the spinning motion just holds it stable. And that's about simply it. Everybody understands a gyroscope.
Yeah, ball bearings or any type of ball bearings involved, would they be normal metallic ball bearings, or would they be, say, like have a polar charge to them, like some type of magnetic ball bearing system, or what?
I hadn't considered any magnetic ball bearings, but it does have ball bearings in it. And, because you have to have ball bearings with the sinusoidal ring and the pistons. They have to be have ball bearings inside there, because they're notched into the ring so that they're moving up and down as the ring moves through its sine wave. It pulls the pistons up and down, and they suck the air in above it. But now, when you get into, if you take this into outer space, then what happens is you stop the gyroscope from spinning, and you lock that in position. And in outer space, you won't have the atmosphere that you pull in to get thrust and things like that. So you close off all of those parts, and you use the water and the solar power that's housed within the mechanism for providing your forward thrust and your lift.
Fantastic. Say a manned hull, say with 2 or 3 people, or if an entire family wanted to go up for a family mission to restore the ozone. Is there any idea how long a family would be able to remain aloft in outer space while restoring the atmosphere? How long could it potentially stay aloft in the upper atmosphere or space?
Well, you could stay aloft for an indefinite period of time, because, as I said, as long as you took some water, some food along, because the water is there in the clouds. So you can dip down in the clouds, replenish your water, and the sun is always there. So as long as you've got water and sun, you've got all the power you need to fly, and you can stay up as long as you want, as long as you got some food.
Yeah, and certainly multivitamins, if we took multivitamins with us, they don't take up very much space at all. Say if we were up there for years and had children and we're taking multivitamins, potentially could our mouths become smaller and smaller?
I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I was just making a joke. But I mean, really, food and certainly multivitamins. It doesn't. I was actually talking to my wife about this. It does not take up too much space. So we really wouldn't have to have too much space reserved for food, honestly.
Well, if you put one of these on the moon, seal the edges, plant you some vegetables up there in the clear fiberglass under that, you'd grow the food you need. So if up there, so if you were, if you remember in this movie, The Space Odyssey, 2000 something Space Odyssey, they used
It was
the moon,
2001, right? Yeah.
they used the moon as a jump off point to get into outer space up there. So it would be easier to do that, and they would have some food on the moon. You'd be able to grow food on the moon.
This is fascinating. Fascinating. Now, do you have any more concepts for this, or any more ideas that we haven't talked about already, or parts of your invention that you believe to be different and unique to your flying saucer as opposed to any other form of air travel?
Well, I think that this is not comparable to any air travel that is in existence now, because it doesn't use fossil fuels. That's my main point. We need to save the oil for our plastic needs in the future. We need to recycle plastic instead of throwing it away, because ultimately we'll run out of oil and we'll run out of plastic somewhere down the line. And we need to do more research in what those coal and oil can do for other products, rather than burning them up and seeing them go up the chimney as we've been doing in the past.
I remember reading within the patent document something I'd never heard of before called a sine wave ring. What is a sine wave?
It's a sinusoidal. I call it a sinusoidal ring, and that's a concept that I had. If you take a rectangular cross section and create a ring from that. Now, if you take a sine wave, normally sine waves, you get those in transmission of for radio and all that, radio waves and things. But if you take the sine wave and run it along a circle that corresponds to the rectangular cross section ring, and you chip out. Yeah, I'll show you. You chip out the sine wave out of that ring, you create a sinusoidal ring itself. It's like this. And what happens is you get that movement up and down, and therefore when the rollers are going around that's causing the piston to go up and down, and they're sucking air in from the top side of the flying saucer, but this is being turned by the generator that you have on board. That's being from that other form of generator that I showed you. The solar-powered generator is also the superheated steam is causing the sinusoidal ring to spin around, and that is what causes the piston to go up and down and suck air in from above, and then push it over into a compression chamber and use that compression chamber for your forward thrust and your vertical lift.
That's fascinating, and it could traverse in any direction.
Yep.
Of course, vertical, up and down, left and right,
Forward and back.
zigzag from one point. Take a diagonal movement quickly to another location. It's fascinating. It literally it sounds like something that you would see in a sci-fi movie, and getting this out to the public in a way where people understand it is going to be both interesting and a challenge. But I think we have the abilities to get this out to the right people and the right amount of people, and really bringing at least a huge amount of awareness that this is within the realms of possibility. Second, it would benefit our planet. We just got to get past the 150 years of pollutive industrial works and those old fat cats still sitting in their petroleum seats, just literally raping this planet. We got to get past those guys, but I think it's very possible. This would completely overturn all that we know.
It would ruin everything. It would completely revolutionize the airline industry, the aerospace industry, coal, oil industries, everything, because it changes the usage of and the way everything is being used. So I realize that. But the thing is this: people who say, "Oh, I'm killing a lot of jobs," but at the same time creating just as many jobs as are being terminated. So it's not that I'm hurting anybody by coming up with these concepts.
Yeah, and in jobs, the transportation vessels or vehicles that they would normally be using could slowly be replaced by specific versions of the saucer, rather than hauling a huge amount of material, raw materials from one site to the other with an oil-powered dump truck of some sort. There could be a customized version of your flying saucer that does the same thing, but is not polluting, even on the work sites.
That's see, true.
And there are endless possibilities and all facets of life, literally.
Yeah, I agree that, and I think that's what my purpose for being is to help to correct the things, and billionaires can joyride, but not at the expense of our health and the well-being of people on the planet. And I have a hard time accepting that. Now, I don't have the funds, but I will tell you this: I've written to all of them asking for their help, and nobody answers my letters. I've tried 40 communications with people in government and in private industry. At least 40 times I've written letters and stuff, and nobody sent. I had a wonderful proposal that I sent out that I would mail out to everybody, and they know what I'm doing, but nobody will answer. It's really sad, really sad.
Well, you've got my support on this. Again, you're from Paducah, Kentucky, right across the river from my hometown, little old Metropolis, Illinois. When I was looking through the patent document databases, I seen Herbert Martin from Paducah, Kentucky. I was like, whoa. And then here just about a week ago, I finally built up the courage. I was gonna say built up the balls to finally try to reach out to you, and I found your phone number. You answered the call, and here we are. And I'm not going to just give up on this. It's not just like a flyby, one-time conversation kind of thing. Now we got to make a true effort to get not only the idea out there, but the message of how this can completely revolutionize a ritualistic legacy of pollution and environmental rape, and it has to change. And I think it's time. I think we really have a chance.
I think so. I will tell you this. I want to be involved in the development of the prototypes and those things, so that if you get, I don't have any GoFundMe or anything like that, but if you find somebody with mutual interest who has mutual money, I would certainly be willing to go anywhere and make any presentation to get this sort of thing started. So if you find somebody, let me know.
Oh yeah, we'll stay in communications on this. This is probably to the listeners probably the first time they've actually heard an actual inventor of a flying saucer speak out on their invention. And we just need a little bit of assistance on this, because this is a huge campaign. I think that anybody listening understands this is some heavy stuff. It has the potential to literally overthrow the table and replace it with something much, much greater.
It helped the whole world. I mean, I know that, and people in Germany their streets won't be flooding. When you go to Alaska, you can see how far the glaciers have receded just because the earth is heating up, and the wildfires out west. But the other invention that I mentioned, the one that generates electricity, that can be used to help save Earth itself. So we can talk about that at some other time.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting to me. That being added to the flying saucer, that already is based off of revolutionary technology, good ethical technology, as opposed to rockets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rockets don't make sense. I do believe that saucer-shaped vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that are powered by the sun and water, I think that's moving literally in a good direction. Even much better than you could even make smaller versions of them for personal transportation, from getting from point A to point B.
Or you could make one as big as 2 city blocks and travel to Mars or something. It's unlimited, the possibilities.
Yeah, and if you wanted to go out and live in the upper atmosphere, or somewhere between the Earth and the Moon, or somewhere between I wouldn't say the Earth and the Sun, but that's highly likely. Somewhere between the Earth and the Moon, you could go out there and live in your flying saucer, right?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, as long as you can get to water, that's all you need.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, the construction and being made with titanium and clear fiberglass, you could grow vegetables. You could set that thing up out in outer space, and if you started your vegetables here on Earth, as long as you could go into the clouds and get some water somewhere, you could eat and sleep and do what you want to out in outer space. Yeah. I'm not advocating that, but it's possible that a person could do that.
Yeah, an entire family. Imagine being born aboard a flying saucer. I wonder if the physical traits over many generations of people being on flying saucers, if the anatomy would change.
Yeah, it would. Your anatomy would change. Yeah, because they've already done experiments with that. NASA has already done experiments. They know that your anatomy changes.
Fascinating. So very graphic. Just talking about it. Literally listening to you talk is like watching an awesome real life sci-fi documentary. And I want to thank you, Herbert Martin, the inventor of the gyroscopically-stabilized, saucer-shaped, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft.
Thank you.
Layman terms, a flying saucer.
Flying saucer. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll be in touch and we'll talk soon. We'll have a follow-up on some other technologies that you have in mind. So I want to thank you, Herbert Martin. Take care.
Okay. Bye.